July 1992. A special month, but only because, looking at the 6 books on this list, I only had to check one of them on Amazon to jog the old memory. Everything else, I clearly remember. For the most part. I mean, it was a long time ago. What is that, 30 years ago? But, let's jump in. I actually have 2 of these books. The first 2, because the first book that I read in July of 1992 was Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze. The first Doc Savage story. It introduces us to Doc and his whole crew. Monk, Ham, Rennie, Long Tom, and Johnny. I think I got that correct. It starts with a mysterious assassin with red painted fingers trying to kill Doc Savage, and takes us on a chase, a mystery into a hidden land that Doc saves, and so they give him a shit ton of gold. That's how he survives or finances his superheroing. I just reread this relatively recently. Some of the things in it are a little problematic, but it was written. What's the original copyright on this? I do not know. Where is it? 1933. So I don't think there's any overt racism, but some of the people in the hidden land maybe not written in the best way, and there's a little bit of sexism going on, but again, I think it's one of those signs of the times kinds of things. I'm not trying to forgive it. I think it would be written completely differently if it was written today, but it is the classic first story, Doc Savage. And the second book that I read in July of 1992 is the second Doc Savage, The Thousand-Headed Man. I love these covers. So good. These are the Bantam editions. And in this one, Doc and his crew, there's a mystery. They're chasing it down. They end up, according to the back of the book, in Indochina, another hidden society that's being run or terrorized by the Thousand-Headed Man. And apparently Doc's got to fight some snakes. Trying to remember how many hidden societies there were in the Doc Savage novels. I know Tarzan has quite a few. Apparently Doc does as well. But I enjoy their great pulps. Favorite pulp character, Doc Savage. Next up, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. I assume everybody knows this. Knows the movie, at least. I had to look to get the character's name. Main character, Randall Patrick McMurphy. I couldn't remember that. But it's about a guy who is on trial and is going to get locked away in prison. So he essentially fakes a mental illness. So he gets sent to a mental hospital instead, where he causes all sorts of chaos and problems. Comes up against his nemesis, Nurse Ratched. And shenanigans ensue. The book, if I remember correctly, has a different ending than the movie. And I don't remember which one I like better, because I haven't seen the movie in ages, haven't read the book in ages. But it is a great book. I loved it. One that I should probably read again. And I didn't mention, for those first 2 books, the Doc Savage books are written by Kenneth Robeson. It's a pen name, but that's what's on the book. Next, we have The Brave by Gregory Mcdonald. This is significant because this is the first time I read a book with a trigger warning. I don't know if they called them that back then. Excuse me, there's a smear on my glasses. Now everything's blurry, and I probably look really weird to people. There we go. So The Brave by Gregory Mcdonald had a trigger warning. This is the author of the Fletch novels and a bunch of other stuff that's a little more lighthearted. This is definitely not. And you open up the book, right there in front, it says that chapter whatever, chapter 2, chapter 3, has very graphic descriptions. And this is a book about snuff films. It's basically about this homeless guy with a family that he needs to take care of, and he can't, doesn't have any money. And so he signs a contract to be in a snuff film. And he's going to be paid X amount of dollars up front, and then a whole bunch more after the fact. And it's supposed to go into an account that his family will have access to. And in whichever chapter it is that you're warned about, it's it's not even happening. It's the snuff filmmakers telling the guy what they're going to do, if I remember correctly. And so they're giving a graphic description to the guy of what they're going to do to him. So, and it's not, by today's standards, certainly not that graphic. But it's a really good book, excuse me, about man's desperation, how far he'll go for his family, and there's kind of a twist at the end, but it's a pretty straightforward examination of what a man will do. It's a really, really good book. Very difficult to find. I wish I had a copy of it so I could read it again. But that's The Brave by Gregory Mcdonald. Next, the one book that I actually had to look up to see what it was about, and that is The Quality of the Informant by Gerald Petovich. And as usual-ish, this is about counterfeiters, but you've got a federal agent, Charles, I can barely read my own handwriting, Charles Carr is the guy trying to take down counterfeiters. In this case, Paul LaMonica is the bad guy. And it's basically it's a crime story. You got the good guy going after the bad guy, but it really delves into how informants work and how deadly it can be being an informant, because Paul LaMonica is just a psycho. He'll kill you just as soon as look at you. But a lot about the relationship between Charles Carr and his informants, and lots of running around the country chasing Paul LaMonica. It's good stuff. I really dig Gerald Petovich's stuff, and since he was in the business, as they say, it lends some authenticity to his books. And then finally, a nonfiction book, Torso by Stephen Nichol. And this is about the torso killer in Cleveland, Ohio, back in the day, back when Eliot Ness was safety director. Also known as the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run. And I feel like he had another nickname. This is an unsolved serial killer case. And so this is the nonfiction book I've already read. Discussed the Max Allan Collins historical fiction book that focuses on Eliot Ness's working of the case. This is just all the gory details. There's pictures inside. So yeah, there was a serial killer in Cleveland who was leaving torsos laying around, and it was one of those, look look at the precision of these cuts. Is it a doctor? Is it this? Is it that? Apparently, there are letters or postcards, not sure which, that the killer sent to the police, and there's a like a crime museum in Cleveland that has these things. I remember there were theories that this was a killer who was traveling the rails, and they tried to, I don't think they ever were able to, but tried to attribute other murders to the same killer. I think officially there are 13 murders that they're like, this is the same person, which is why Max Allan Collins' book is called Butcher's Dozen. Excuse me. But they even tried at one point to connect the Black Dahlia murder out in California to the same killer, but there was no, I don't think there was enough evidence to tie all of these other killings to this one particular killer. But really interesting. If you're interested in true crime, pick it up. It's not a killer that a lot of people, I think, are familiar with. And I don't know if that's because they were never caught. I don't know. Who becomes more infamous? The killer that's caught or the one that's never caught? I mean, everybody knows Jack the Ripper. And I think there were even some people that tried to say that might have been the same killer. Although they would have been probably pretty old by that point. Excuse me. It's going to be a horrible video for people to watch. So yeah, the torso killer, pretty interesting stuff. And for me, a little more so because it's close to home. But that's it. That's what I read in July of 1992. Some pulps, some classics, some mysteries, thrillers, good stuff. A nice mix of things. Now, do I have a question for this video? Yeah, let's, I don't know if I've ever asked this. What are your thoughts on trigger warnings? I feel like I have. I really should write these questions down. Or I can just repeat myself because I don't care. No, I care about all of you. Trigger warnings. Your thoughts. Do you approve, not care? I know it's a constant battle going on social media. Some people think it's unnecessary. If you're reading a horror novel, you should expect horrible things to happen. Some people think they're important. Some people don't care either way. There are authors that will put them in just in case. Some put them at the end of the book with a note, like at the beginning or on the back cover copy somewhere that says there's a trigger warning at the end of the book, because if you get specific, then that could give away aspects of the story that you don't want to give away. If your trigger warning says there's necrophilia in this story, and that's a secret plot point, you don't want to give that away, but you also don't want to freak people out. So they'll have a thing at the beginning that says, trigger warning at the end with spoilers or whatever. And if you're inclined, if you're worried, you can go back and read that before you read the book. I personally don't care one way or the other. I don't need a trigger warning. If I have any trauma, it's so buried that I don't know about it. There's really nothing that's going to trigger me. So I don't need it. But if it's there, I don't care. That's fine. It affects me in no way whatsoever. I don't know why some people get so pissed off about trigger warnings. They're so anti-trigger warning. When unless there's huge spoilers in it, excuse me, it doesn't affect them. Why would you be so angry about it? But like I said, if you're reading a horror novel, you should expect horrific things to happen, but there are so many different possible horrific things that could happen, and you never know what might trigger somebody. I think for the most part, it usually has to do with things like sexual assault. Some people want to know if an animal gets hurt in the book. Sometimes I like it when the animal gets hurt, because I like that the author is willing to do that, because I think most authors know people don't like it. They get upset when animals get hurt, and so if an author's willing to say, hey, I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway, it's part of the story, I dig it. Excuse me. In fiction, of course, I love animals in the real world. So yeah, I guess that's my rambling thoughts on trigger warnings. I can take them or leave them. I do not need them ever, but I'm not offended by them. They don't bother me at all. What do you think? Do you think we're just becoming a country of soft people that are too easily offended by things, and that we should have trigger warnings? Do you think that they're unnecessary? If you're reading something, you should just be expect that anything can happen. Do you not care? Or is there some other option that I'm not thinking of? Let me know about trigger warnings in the comments. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. You know all the YouTube things. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is at Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, fuzzy animals, and recently my brand new TV, because my old TV died and I had to wait for my tax return to get a new one. But I put a picture of it up. That Instagram is EricSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ErikSmith 5757. That is all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.